All right, here's the story. We got this ABC 7 New York police issue call for help. Outrage continues to grow over deadly subway chokehold encounter. So the death of a subway rider who was put into a chokehold by a former Marine on the train has been ruled a homicide, and now activists are calling for charges to be filed. They have planned several protests and rallies on Thursday as the NYPD has issued a call for public help in their investigation. Jordan Neely, 30, died from a compression of the neck, the city's medical examiner determined Wednesday. Neely is recognizable to some New Yorkers as a Michael Jackson impersonator who regularly danced in the Times Square Transit Hub. On Monday afternoon, he was yelling and pacing back and forth on an F train in Manhattan. Witnesses and police said when he was restrained by at least 3 people, including a U.S. Marine veteran who pulled one arm tightly around his neck. A physical struggle ensued, leading to Neely losing consciousness. He was rushed to Lenox Hill Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. On Wednesday, a medical examiner determined Neely's his death was a homicide. However, that does not mean the case will be prosecuted as a homicide. Okay, that's the stupidest bit of writing I've ever heard. As a murder, they mean. Homicide means death caused by person. It doesn't mean criminal. So what they're trying to say is, though the death was ruled a homicide, it does not mean the case will be prosecuted as a murder. That is up to the Manhattan DA's office, which is investigating. But I suppose I'm probably being a little bit too harsh because you can, they're not being clear here. You can make the argument there's reckless homicide, there's negligent homicide. And so what they're saying is it's not clear that he will be criminally charged. They probably just should have said. They're going to say, as a part of our rigorous ongoing investigation, we'll review the medical examiner's report, assess all available video and photo footage, identify and interview as many witnesses as possible, and obtain additional medical records, read a statement from a spokesperson for the DA. So we've got video coming out of New York. Protesters, I believe this was yesterday, were seen in the streets, and the police made some arrests. And we'll get into it in a little bit. But one of our reporters, Elad Eliyahu, was physically assaulted by one of the protesters and had his property destroyed while he was in the process of doing journalism. But let's just get down to brass tacks here, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of arguments about this one. This is the story of a guy who was having a mental breakdown. I guess the news that recently came out was that he was a subway performer and his mental health collapsed after his, I think his mom was killed, is what they're reporting. And after that, he kind of just lost it. And then he had been arrested 40 times. He had once punched a 67-year-old woman in the face. And so as he was belligerent and on the subway, reportedly threatening people, saying that he would take it, he was ready to die and he would hurt people. This is when the 3 men subdued him. Reportedly, the Marine told everyone to call 911 and get the police down there. And then he ended up dying, which has resulted in the left, like AOC, whether or not people, I don't know if you consider her left, but AOC.
Yeah, she's progressive.
She said this was a public murder. And now you've got protesters calling for this guy to be arrested. They're saying he committed a murder. And I think this is actually a really good example of what is described as anarcho-tyranny, in that you had 25 people pushed onto subway tracks in the past year. You've had like a woman get raped on a train in Philadelphia. And we don't hear a single peep from any of these politicians, from any of these activists, until someone actually stops the guy. If you go back 7 years...
Kills him, right? Kills him. He killed him.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when someone is being violent and then someone else acts in self-defense of others and the person dies in the process, now there's all of a sudden calls for, okay, so this guy should be criminally charged, but there was no call for stopping the 25 people being pushed onto subway tracks. That's an ongoing and acceptable thing, I suppose.
I'm never going to sit here and try and defend people pushing people on the subway tracks. That's a crime. Like, that's terrible.
Attempted murder.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if they die. So that's horrible. No one's going to be on the other side of that argument. But in terms of like the guy who just got killed, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, doesn't, in self-defense, the proportionality of what you're doing has to be in response to the actual aggressive actions of the person, right? It has to be proportional. Is that correct? So you feel in your mind that it was a proportional response for him to choke him out to death in that situation because he was going to become such a threat to the person who choked him out. But
you made a big leap right there.
What's the leap?
You're ascribing intent to the Marine to kill.
Oh, I'm not saying he intended to kill him. I never said that, but he did end up killing him, right?
That's immaterial.
What has to be material, Tim, has to be, is he doing what he's doing?
Are you making a proportionality argument, or are you making
Yes, I'm asking you that because what he did proportional to the threat? Yes. So the threat that he was going to do.
It is proportional to subdue someone that is threatening other people and saying he'll die in the process.
and end up killing him, even if that was
So see now you're doing it again. You're ascribing intent.
No, I'm not ascribing intent. I'm saying the results. This is what happened. The guy's dead. He's dead, right?
Results are immaterial to the proportionality of action.
So the proportionality of action in your mind was justified to what he was doing, his actual actions.
He held the guy on the ground while he said call 911.
And killed him. And choked him until he died.
You're doing it again.
No, you keep saying I'm doing it again. I'm saying this is the end results. I'm not saying this is what he meant to do. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. I don't know what's in his heart. Neither do you. None of us know what he meant to do that day when he woke up.
Absolutely. If someone is threatening other people, you are allowed to subdue them.
And then would it be like an involuntary manslaughter?
So
No, but this is what happened. It's to the point of death. So you have.
It's not a criminal.
It's not. I'm not saying he intended to kill him. That's a difference, right? But if he ended up dying as a result of that, was that proportional?
Yes.
He needed to be killed.
No.
Or he could have killed someone else.
Hold on. Stop that. You can't. You keep trying to say needed to be. No.
But that's what happened.
The Marine.
That's the end result.
You're saying the Marine tried to kill him.
No, I didn't say that.
Then why
you are saying that I'm saying that? You're putting words in my mouth. I'm saying that's what ended up happening.
Let me respond. Then why would you say needed to be killed?
Because what he did to him, his chokeout ended up with the guy dying. So that was the end result. So his proportional response to what he thought was a threat was that I'm going to choke him out. I'm not trying to kill him, but I'm going to choke him out. Whether or not he dies is going to be something that we're just going to remain to be on the cards, right? This is chance. We'll leave it up to chance here.
So you are making a huge leap right there.
There's no leap, Tim. What he's doing is that proportional. Is choking someone with the possibility of death. With the possibility of death.
Yes,
okay, so
absolutely.
That's
I'll tell you this. Let me tell you. So if someone tried illegally entering my home,
sure,
I will use whatever force necessary to stop them from illegally entering my home, right? I have the legal justification in the state that I live in to use whatever force necessary to stop someone from entering my home illegally. Now, you can't invite someone in, and there's actually some legal barriers here. Like, if someone actually walks up to your house and the door is open and they walk in, that's actually not an illegal entry. Mm-hmm. It is to a certain degree, but it's like trespass. Sure. It's like your door was open, there was no obstruction, and then you'll make an argument about entering the domicile could be considered fourth-degree burglary, depending on which state you're in. If they actually open the door and enter, they've now committed felony burglary. And you are entitled in West Virginia to use whatever force necessary to stop someone from illegally entering your house. That doesn't mean you just intend to actually kill someone. So in terms of we're out in the street, someone is threatening someone else. You are legally entitled to subdue them. Now,
even if that in the act of doing that, you could kill them.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because where you're going with it is like, what act of subduing would be permitted in your mind? Then, like holding his hands tightly?
One that doesn't have a possibility of death, I would say. Because
give me one in your martial arts expertise.
Zero. Absolutely zero.
Okay, so
zero.
there's a problem.
I think I can contend that no one here has any, right? Am I in a judo room?
I just watched a lot of movies.
No, but
sharp elbows.
But no, none of us have black belts. We don't know this shit. We're just a bunch of people who talk on the internet,
but now going black belts all over. I mean, I have hostile environment training and I have some minimal martial arts training. Minimal. I've done some kung fu, taekwondo.
So once again, there's no experts here to talk about this. Yeah.
So certainly will contend I am not an expert. However, if someone is threatening harm against another person and 3 people find it reasonable to subdue him and the person dies, that person was in the process of committing a crime. If you lose your life in the process of committing a crime, I'm not going to blame the victims for this, right? Would you blame the victims for this?
When you're saying victims, you mean the people who killed him?
The people who are being attacked.
But were they attacked prior, or did they try to subdue him? Do we have footage before the event begins?
So in New York, for example, if you go up to someone and threaten them, you've committed a crime, right? You've committed a criminal act of violence against another person by threatening them and going up to their face, right?
And so you're saying at that point you have the ability to proportionally respond with violence.
Actually, there's a video of this. Myth Informed has it. 7 years ago, this man was called a hero for diffusing violence by putting another man in a chokehold. A man in the subway was getting up in people's faces, and he was threatening them, and another man got up behind him and put him in a chokehold, and he was put on national television, and he was celebrated as a hero for doing so. So this is what I'm talking about, anarcho-tyranny. I feel like you're latching onto this completely from a point of you don't have knowledge on proper technique for subduing an individual,
none of us do,
nor the legal expertise.
None of us do as well.
But see that's kind of an absurd thing to just outright. Well, look, I'm going to say this guy committed a murder and should go to prison, but I'm not an expert and neither are you. Therefore, he should be convicted.
I never said that. I'm actually asking questions because these are things that I don't fully understand about. Is it legal for him to do what he did?
Yes. That's why he wasn't
charged. It is proportionally legal.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why he wasn't charged. He was released. However, in this day and age, what's likely going to happen is anarcho-tyranny. People go out in the streets, they protest, and the police say, for political reasons, we're going to go find this guy and we're going to arrest him.
But I don't know. It depends. Unfortunately, we don't have footage of what happened before the chokehold.
That's what I'd like to know.
But if there's enough people on the train that are witness to what was happening, and they're like, yo, he was threatening all of us, then I think the cops are not going to mess with that guy.
And that's what was reported. And there were 3 men trying to subdue him as he fought back. So there's no debate that this guy was acting violently and threatening people, and even said he was prepared to die. At that point, you have what could be a terroristic threat. I think if a guy got on a train and screamed, "I'm going to cause harm to people," and then said he was willing to die, you'd probably want to stop him, because there's signs all over the subway saying, if you see something, say something. And I suppose we could go the route of when Luke Rudkowski had that video, there was a guy in a subway with a knife stabbing people, and the cop said, we're not going to get involved at all. And then some guy had to try and intervene himself. It's funny, that guy's a hero.
Yeah, that was, I think, oh yeah, here it is. Matt Walsh retweeted Alexandra Cortez's tweet from 6 hours ago and asking specifically, what are they supposed to do? What are people supposed to do in this situation? Are they just supposed to sit there? If someone's screaming, they're gonna hurt somebody. You just sit there and wait until they actually hurts the person, and then you respond?
And I'm just curious, honest question. We have the story from the Daily Mail from October. 25 victims have been shoved in front of subway cars so far this year. 2 victims were killed. Where was the protest?
Well, where was the video footage of it?
There is video footage of it.
Is it public?
Yes.
Public video footage?
And I can't play it on YouTube, but there's video footage of people being pushed in front of trains. And where's AOC? Where's any of these protesters? Nowhere to be found. Anarcho-tyranny is that when the criminals do it, as explained in, was it Solzhenitsyn, the Gulag Archipelago? When a criminal does this act in the Soviet Union, that's just a criminal. That's what they do. But when you, the citizen, defend yourself, you knew better.
But so you're blaming AOC for not bringing attention to this specifically? So as
blaming.
in, or you're saying that she's hypocritical because she doesn't talk about the people being pushed in front of trains, but she's talking about this now? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying hypocritical. No, I'm saying I have a question of why now? Why only when people are victimized and they defend themselves are we now upset about what happened on the subway?
Keep saying victimized. We're talking about a poor homeless person who
attacks people.
may have been having an episode and died in what ended up being the struggle. So why are the people who were subduing him victims? What makes them victims of this?
He assaulted them.
So you have that on camera, that he assaulted them first.
According to all the news reports and the police and the witness statements.
Can we see the footage? I want to see. I haven't seen that yet.
I think we can show the choke out.
Okay, so according to the news reports, the witnesses and the police, he went and threatened violence against people, which is assault. And
right, but you're saying he specifically threatened violence against the people who subdued him. Do we have evidence of that? It's one thing for him to be in a train being like, I'm upset.
You're not winning an argument here.
I'm not trying to win an argument.
You're being awfully pedantic.
Awfully pedantic.
Yes.
Why would you use pedantic in this form? As in, I'm trying to get to the root of this problem.
No. It's absurd to imply that if a guy walks up to a woman and says he's going to harm her, that another man can't protect her.
Right. And so this is why I'm asking, did he say to the people who subdued him, I'm going to harm you?
Yes,
I'm going to hurt you.
That's immaterial to a self-defense claim in proportionality.
Okay.
If this guy was threatening people, right? And then someone said, I'm going to stop you before you hurt someone. That is legal self-defense acting in the defense of others. That makes those people who are stopping the guy threatening people the victims of a violent individual who is trying to cause harm. Yeah, I just find it fascinating that there's an effort to defend the aggressor in this circumstance. Right?
Oh, so you're suggesting that the guys, even if the guys that were choking out weren't the ones being threatened, that they're still considered a victim because they stepped in to defend other people?
Well, I'm saying outright that if you're on a train and there's a guy, you're on a train, you can't get off that train. You are trapped.
Yeah,
right?
I used to live in this area, by the way. I used to live in Flatbush. I used to take these trains every single day. I have seen this. I have seen this and worse. I have seen people in the middle of episodes where I was like, this person could potentially either harm themselves or harm me. It never crossed my mind that I need to choke them out to the point of potential death in order to protect everyone else on the train. That never even entered my mind. So that's why I'm asking you, do you have specific footage of him threatening the very people who subdued and ended up killing him?
But why does that matter?
I don't think there is footage.
But like, what is it?
All right. Well, then that's all I want to know.
But what does it have to do with what I said? That's why I understand your thought.
Because I would think that the proportionality being that you ended up killing them, even if that was not your intent, I understand that you don't think he intended to do that. Fine. But even if that was it, were they like threats to him in the immediate present? Were they on the verge of committing an act of violence towards him that required proportional violence that ended up in death?
But it's not a requirement someone threatens you for you to act in defense of others. Right? So your question is kind of in an unnecessary direction. And I'll elaborate. If you're on a train and you're trapped in a box and someone is threatening violence, then yeah, you're a victim. Because
so I've been a victim multiple times. Then I was in these subways.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the craziest thing to me.
But I don't feel like a victim. I've never been hurt. I never was hurt by people who were going through those kind of episodes.
Other people have been.
I'm not saying they haven't. I'm not saying this is a good thing.
25 people were pushed in front of trains.
Okay, so these 25 people who were pushed in front of trains, how is that directly related? Were these people also going through episodes? Were they also people who were homeless? Did they have mental illness?
I would say anybody shoving
here?
someone in front of a train at random is like going through an episode. You know what I mean? The correlation is that crime and murder on the subway has been increasing, or has at least been apparent in the press, but I don't see you caring about it at all until it's the aggressor who gets killed.
No one, I think, on the left is going to defend this stat that you're pulling.
Then why put a guy in prison for finally saying, stop killing people?
This is like, Tim, if I approached you today and I was like, hey, do you know what goes on in Rikers Island? Have any of you done a show on what happens in Rikers Island? How they hold people in Rikers Island? Do you know what?
Not Rikers Island specifically, but we talk about prison reform all the time.
Okay,
and how
do you know about bail reform and the fact that people die in Rikers Island waiting to have their day in court because they can't afford it?
And we've talked about it.
And you've done entire shows on that. And we've talked about how people literally die in prison while they're waiting for that shit?
We talked about
terrible.
Okay, so we actually talked about one guy who got wrongly arrested, lost his job, was kicked out of his apartment, went to Rikers for 3 months, only to be released and then told, sorry, there's nothing you can do about it. The city owes him nothing because they considered the prosecution not to be malicious. But this is the problem, man. Like, we talk about stuff like this all the time.
But the example you just gave me was not me talking about the systemic problem of people who are poor being in Rikers Island before they get to trial. They die before they're not released. You just gave me a story of someone who was released prior to that.
I'm giving you an example of a specific show we've actually talked about someone wrongly held and had their life destroyed.
Okay.
Now, of course, we can go on further and say, yes, people have died. Yes, the system is corrupt. And my point is this. When we talk about stuff like this, like, wow, in October, we talked about 25 people being pushed in front of train cars. You guys just shit all over us and ignore these problems. Then finally, when three guys...
ignoring this. I told you, no one's on the other side of this. No one is pro-push people onto trains.
Where's your protest? Where's your protest?
Where's my protest?
Yeah, where's your protest?
Where's your Rikers protest?
We had it on the show, but you don't watch the show.
You did a protest? You did an actual protest? You guys stood up and then walked to the streets or what?
We don't go on the streets ever,
but
right?
I'm not blaming you for not talking about that, Tim, because this is the problem of like, you are judging someone based on absence, based on your absence of caring about something. Why haven't you talked about this, Lance? The fact that you haven't talked about this means that you don't care about that.
That's not what I said.
That's not true, though.
That's not what I said.
That's the implication of what you were saying right now.
My implication is, instead of helping us deal with this when we talk about it, you make up garbage about us and then post nonsense on the internet.
When have I brought up garbage about people pushing people into trains? This is the most random example. I'm not
talking about you saying, I'm saying you don't talk about it, right? I'm not criticizing you for not talking about it. I'm saying finally, when there are people who are like, we've had 25 people pushed in front of trains, we've had 2 of them killed, I'm not going to let this person hurt somebody. It's y'all saying that person should go to prison. It's like, how is that solving the problem? You guys are making it worse. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.